Hi everybody, this is Dr. Hall and I want to welcome you back to your classes. So here we go, we're moving into the online environment, and so I have a few thoughts and recommendations that I want to share with you in general about how we're going to approach the rest of the semester. First of all, I've never taught online before, so I've spent all week learning lots of various software tools, most of which are not working out very well for me, but we're gonna figure it out, right? So I'm kind of just gonna be brave enough to try things and hopefully we'll find something that works. And so while we move into this entirely new format, please give me feedback and ask questions. I want this to still be a useful course for you. I want you to still be able to learn because that's what this is all about. And then, as you have been already, continued patience and understanding not only with me but with yourself, because this is new for a lot of you as well. So you'll be glad to know that because of this big transition, I actually have been given a new TA. So I'm going to introduce you to him now. Oh, there he is. So this is Oliver. Some of you may know him as he is frequently my exam password. And Oliver is going to bring a lot of skills to our course. He has many talents, mostly just sitting on things, especially on my keyboard, putting his butt in my face when I'm trying to do work. You know, he's pretty talented. He's really good at giving me the stink eye if I'm late at doing something like feeding him, but so far he hasn't said he's going to try to keep you guys on task. But he's super good at social distancing. Whenever somebody new comes over to the house, he runs and hides. And so I've actually asked Oliver to prepare the next couple of slides for you about social distancing, which we've already talked about in class, right? So here is Oliver's contribution to our discussion about flattening the curve. Oh, okay, so it's cattening the curve now. If you've seen this online already, I apologize. So remember, our goal here is to put these protective measures in place so that we can slow down and reduce the number of cases so that we don't overwhelm our healthcare system. It also buys us time to discover and develop potential treatments and vaccines, and to also study which measures are going to be the most protective and the most effective with the least potential damage to our economy and our society. So that's why we're asking everyone to stay home as much as possible, practice good hand washing, all that good stuff, right? So remember, for most of you, if you did get sick with the coronavirus, it's unlikely it would be fatal, although we have seen recent reports that 20% of all hospitalizations for this virus have been in young people, which is not what we would have expected. That's probably because young people are probably getting infected more than older people, especially those students that I saw on spring break down in Florida on the news. So yeah, some of those are probably going to end up in the hospital soon. But for most of you who don't have underlying health conditions, you probably will be okay. But remember, it's not about you, it's about all of the people that you could potentially infect who may not survive this illness or might suffer greatly as a result of this illness. So as we think about social distancing, this has been kind of a useful concept for me. I have a very small community of people that I touch. It's just my family, right? My spouse and my kid. Those are the only people I am touching ever now. And then I have a smaller or a slightly larger community of people that I will share spaces with. So I will go over to my in-laws' house, which is right down the street, but we don't touch each other. We stay about 6 feet away from each other. So 6 feet is about 2 arms lengths. So if you can actually reach your fingertips to each other, you're a little bit too close. So 6 feet is the distance at which respiratory droplets are unlikely to be able to travel. We also have a family that has a kid same age as ours, and so we've decided that those are also people that we share spaces with. right? So you have this really small circle of people that you will touch and be in very close contact with, and then you have a slightly larger circle of people you'll share spaces with, and then everyone else is outside of that. Everyone else, you stay away, you don't go over to their houses, you certainly don't share anything with them, right? Now, of course, you can go shopping if you need to. Be good about wiping down the handle. Be good about washing your hands afterwards. Be good about staying 6 feet or more away from everybody else, right? If you need to go out into public to attend to your needs, of course you can do that, right? But now is not the time to go get a manicure, let me tell you that. All right. So we also have to assume that this virus is already where we live. So late yesterday, it was announced that we had the first case in Dunn County and the first confirmed case in Chippewa County as well. But you have to understand, as of yesterday, Wisconsin had only done slightly more than 2,000 tests. For a state with millions of people, that's a really small sample size. And mostly the only people who've been getting tested are people who were really sick or we knew for sure that they had been in contact with an infected person. But unfortunately, we know that much of the spread of this virus is done by people with minimal to no symptoms. So those are people who are not getting tested. Now, in an ideal world, we would be testing everybody or as many people as possible. But right now, there's a shortage of tests in this country, and so we can't do that. So the numbers that we are seeing are absolutely a huge underestimate of the total numbers of cases that exist. So we need to assume that this virus is already where we live, and that's why we're being so good about staying away from other people, washing our hands, and not going out. I also want you to realize that even though we are doing these extraordinary measures, right? Closing restaurants, closing bars, telling people to stay home, numbers are still going to go up over the next 2 weeks, probably exponentially. And that's because this virus takes about, on average, somewhere between 2 to 12 days for people to develop symptoms. And then it's going to take a couple of days to get a test result. So the people who are getting diagnosed today with a positive test result were infected 1 to 2 weeks ago before we started any of these measures. We also haven't been doing very many tests, as I mentioned, so there's probably a lot more virus around than we thought there was, and as we increase the numbers of tests, we're going to have increased numbers of positives. So plan that we are going to continue to see exponential increase in the numbers of cases over the next 2 weeks. That doesn't mean that the social distancing isn't working. It just means that there's this baked in delay of 2 weeks. Studies out of China where they did really, really effective social distancing and quarantine measures that were heavily enforced showed that their numbers started to go down significantly about 12 to 14 days after they instituted lockdown. So we know that until we've been doing this consistently everywhere in the country for 2 weeks, numbers aren't going to start going down. So what do you do if you feel sick? As I mentioned earlier, there aren't enough tests currently. Hospitals and lab companies and state departments are working to try to improve their testing capacity, but right now it's still low, and so only people who are very sick are the people that are getting tested, because those are the people in whom we really need to know whether what they have is corona or not, because that's going to influence how we treat them. So if you get sick, you have a fever or chills or body aches, sore throat, stuffy nose, cough, stay home. Isolate yourself from other people in your home. Have your own bedroom and your own bathroom that you use, and have everyone else use different rooms. Stay in those few rooms, have meals delivered to you and dishes taken away from you. Have your family members wash their hands frequently, and if you have a mask or can kind of concoct one, that can be useful for family members. In studies of families where one person was infected, but they did good, what we call respiratory hygiene measures, there was only a 10% risk of one of their family members catching it from them. So if you get sick, stay home, isolate yourself, And do not go into a doctor's office unless you're severely ill. There's nothing that they will do for you, and you will tie up those resources that are needed for people who are sicker than you are. Okay, so please don't go unless you really need help, right? So what you're going to do to take care of yourself is all of the things that you know to do for a viral infection, right? Antibiotics don't work for viral infections really. So you're going to rest and sleep. We recommend you use acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, for pain and fever. You can take cough medicine, use throat lozenges, NyQuil, all of that stuff, right? All the things you already know how to do. And then watch for signs of severe illness. If you find that you're short of breath even at rest, and I don't mean that you're short of breath because your nose is stuffy and it's hard to breathe through your nose. I mean you feel like you're not getting enough air, right? And you're short of breath because of that. If you can't eat and drink, you're getting confused, if you're bluish around the lips or your breathing is very rapid, and not because of anxiety, which most of us have these days, but because you're not getting enough air. Those are signs of severe illness, and you definitely need to go get seen at your area hospital. Call them first to let them know that you're coming so that they can isolate you properly when you arrive. So, assuming that we all stay well, which if we stay away from other people, we will, let's talk about this move to online learning. So there's going to be schedules posted in Canvas. Please follow those, and you won't have regular reminders from me in class. So you need to develop the self-discipline and strategies to keep yourself on task. So we have a new course objective, right, which is to develop skills at working independently, doing project management, right, figuring out what you need to do when and how to meet those deadlines. A pro tip here, no distractions while you're doing your schoolwork, right? So put your phone in another room or on Do Not Disturb. Silence all those little pop-up notifications or chime notifications on your laptop. Those distractions just eat into your productivity, your focus, and your efficiency like crazy. It becomes impossible to do anything, especially when everybody is trying to reach out to everybody right now because we're all going a little stir crazy. You're also going to want to create a separate space for your schoolwork and go to work on a set schedule each day. Try not to just do a little bit of studying in your bed, right? Bed should just be for sleep and sex and nothing else, right? So you want to have a specific space where you're sitting upright, you have good lighting, and it's like a little home office. That will make you more efficient and effective if you have the space and means to create that. So just as important is keeping yourself well, right? So as a whole person, and that can be really challenging in this time of social distancing. So a few words of advice. First of all, think of it as physical, not social distancing. We're social animals. It's really important to stay in touch with people that you know and care about and not become socially isolated. So we don't want to physically be near anybody, but you can FaceTime people, you can WhatsApp people, you can call them on the phone, you can write letters, you can send cards. If you have time and inclination, sending cards or letters to people in nursing homes would be most appreciated right now, because nursing home residents currently are not, in most places, allowed to receive any visitors because they are at such risk from this virus. So maintain your social connections, just do it virtually. Or electronically, but stay in touch and check in with people. Your extrovert friends, they are not okay. I also want to ask you to be careful about your news exposure. There's a lot of doom and gloom. There's a lot of really scary things out there. I'm not saying that it isn't really scary and really concerning, but we can only spend so much time per day exposing ourselves to that before it becomes counterproductive and just fuels anxiety and senses of hopelessness. So you want to limit your daily news exposure. Maybe pick a time each day where you check in on the news or check in on your social media, and the rest of the time just keep it turned off so that you can focus on other things. Stick to reputable sources of health information. I've already seen lots of myths like drinking warm water will protect you from the virus. No, 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 right? So there's lots of myths going around. So please stick to reputable sources of health information. Here's a few logos of some organizations on which you can rely and depend for only sending out factual information. Um, because spreading myths can actually be harmful because it can make people feel as though they're safe when they're not and they may not take proper precautions. It's important to take good care of your body. So those of you who have me in class know that sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night is what most young adults need to be at peak performance intellectually, physically, and mentally. So make sure you get good sleep, protect that time, make sure your phone is set to do not disturb so that it doesn't even buzz, right? Eat healthy foods as much as you can, right? Depending on what you have at hand, but try to resist the urge to just exist on cheese puffs, right? Try to fuel your body with things that are actually nutritious. And then exercise every day. So your body needs to move in order for you to feel okay as a human being. Physical movement is extraordinarily important. So do some type of exercise. Play your favorite song and dance around the room. Do some push-ups and sit-ups. Go for a run. Whatever it is, you can stream yoga classes. All kinds of things are happening now to allow people to kind of participate in things they used to in person, but virtually. So whatever works for you and brings you joy. I'm also going to ask you to follow a daily routine. Sure, on break, it can be fun to stay in your pajamas all day and not shower for days on end, but after a while that gets old and it actually becomes really counterproductive. So during your weekdays, if that's how you organize your week and if that's when you're going to be doing your schoolwork, I'm going to ask you to get up and shower, get dressed, and then go to work, right? Set up your little home office where you are going to sit down on a set schedule, figure out what schedule is going to work for you, how many hours a day you're going to devote to your schoolwork, and do your work. Treat it like a job. You'll be much more effective. Now is the time, if you haven't already, to use some type of checklist or planner. There are some functionalities embedded in Canvas, like the calendar, that can be useful for this, but there are also going to be things like watching lectures or completing some assignments that you're going to want to do before the day that they are due, right? So you want to plan out when you're going to work on which things, when you're going to study which topics and watch which lectures. So make sure you create a schedule for yourself, and checklists are enormously satisfying. Being able to check something off your list can be just that little extra bit of motivation that you need to actually do it. Now is also an interesting time because you can use your schoolwork, you can use your studies as almost like a sanctuary or a refuge. You can just immerse yourself in what you're learning and tune out the whole world around you. Take advantage of that and really think about it as this is your chance to learn some things that are going to be helpful for you later in life when all of this is over, right? So that kind of future-focused, goal-oriented thinking, as well as tuning out the rest of the world for a period of time, can be really helpful. Again, be careful, right? We're all stressed. We all want to relax and do something fun. But be careful of how much time you're spending on screens, looking at pictures of puppies and kittens or streaming Netflix episodes that's not productive. If we spend a lot of time not doing anything productive, it actually can increase our risk for depression and decrease our productivity overall. It doesn't feel good. We're meant to be doing things and connecting with others in real ways. So be careful about how much screen time you're spending on things that are not productive. Maybe schedule in a couple of hours a day and try to stick to that. It's amazing how quickly it can creep in and take over, however, so be careful. So what you want to do instead when you need to relax and recharge are things that will actually recharge you, right? So get outside. Going out into nature is enormously therapeutic. There are lots of studies that have proven its psychological benefits. It can also be good exercise if you're going for a walk, so you can do two birds with one stone. And it's also nice sometimes to get some perspective that as much turmoil that is happening in the human world right now, the natural world is actually humming along pretty much just fine, and in some ways better, now that our pollution has decreased because our economies have slowed down. But so it can be really lovely to listen to the birds and to watch spring emerge and shoots come up from the ground and leaves budding out. Take advantage of that. I'm also going to ask you to take time every single day to make or create something. Do something with your hands. Plant a garden, sculpt something, learn to cook a new recipe, bake some brownies for a friend, journal, doodle, craft, do that woodworking project you've been putting off. Heck, clean out your closet. Take some time to do something with your hands that is productive or creative, right? So just make something. That can be enormously refreshing, much more so than watching The Office. And also it kind of, gives you a sense that you're accomplishing something in a very concrete way. So I hope that was useful. We're going to get through this together. I know I need to up my selfie game, but I'm here for you. Please email me if you have questions. There will also be discussion boards placed in Canvas for your questions. I will be scheduling some real-time face-to-face via Blackboard Collaborate Ultra office hours, so look for those schedules, and if those times don't work for you, I'm always happy to schedule another time with you individually. So I'm going to be with you through this. We're going to get through it, and you're going to learn a bunch in the process. All right, everyone, I miss you already, but I'll look forward to hearing from you in the weeks ahead.